Start.
Okay. Now, Ramnik, are we live?
So we are not going live. I guess we are only on to the audience here in the WebEx.
Okay, we are live to the audience, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are live to the audience.
Yeah.
And we are recording the session.
Okay. A very good morning to one and all for this very important event, a consultation meeting for the National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, STIP 2020 of the Government of India. This is a unique meeting of minds where IEEE, through its organizational units, the SSIT, Madras section, and YESIST12, are partnering with the Science Policy Forum and the Science, Technology, Innovation Policy Secretariat of the Government of India for this unique consultation with the theme Industry Engagement to Engineer the Future and the core of professional associations. This is a very unique opportunity for all members of IEEE, academicians, students, professionals, young professionals, because it's a wonderful opportunity for each one of us to contribute, or rather, contribute our 2 cents or our ideas and insights towards this very important policy formulation. So without much ado, I welcome all of you and I request Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, the chair of IEEE YESIST, a very senior professor. She's also she has held several IEEE positions and she currently also serves on the board of governors of the IEEE Computer Society. Over to you, Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, ma'am.
Ma'am, I think you are on mute.
Yeah, she's on mute. Dr. Ramalata?
Okay. So, on behalf of Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, I will take up this welcome note. I welcome you all for this consultation meeting for National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy STIP 2020, Government of India. So today we are going to discuss on the theme industry engagement to engineer the future, role of professional organizations. So we have 2 eminent people here as speakers. One, Dr. Mohua Chakraborty Choudhury. She's a DST STI Policy Fellow and in STIP Secretariat, Center for Policy Institute of Science, Bangalore. She's going to give insights about Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2020, Contextual Reference and Policy Framework. And we have Professor S.K. Ramesh, Ph.D. Fellow IEEE. He's ABET Board of Directors, 2016 to 17 IEEE Vice President, Educational Activities, Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Director, AIM Square Program, California State University, Northridge, USA. Professor Ramesh is going to talk about the today's theme, which is industry engagement to engineer the future and the role of professional organizations in this very purpose. So I would like to extend my warm welcome to my team, Professor Prashant R. Nair is going to moderate the session. And I would like to welcome Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, and my team, session coordinators, Dr. J.N. Swaminathan from QuizSet Ongole, and Mr. Ramnik, IEEE Impact Creator, and Kamya Johar from New Delhi, and Bishman Kaur from New Delhi. And I would like to extend my welcome to all the participants and guests from DST, and other government agencies, academicians, students, working professionals, technology enthusiasts, education enthusiasts, and all the participants who showed your interest to join the meeting today. So with this said, it's a great morning for us to all such people here to discuss on this very purpose on a small step of nation building process. So thank you so much all for joining today. I would like to hand over the session back to Professor Prashant.
Dr. Maria Ramalata, are you on, ma'am? Did you get your connection back? Then you could speak a few words. No, I don't think she's not on.
Yeah. Now I just made her as a panelist. I think she's rejoining. Ma'am, can you able to? Yeah.
I'm hearing you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh. Naveen, for giving the introduction. I was hearing everything you said. And the disruptive technology. So it is an important make it that we should make it as a in STEM and education. I'm really thankful to Ramesh working on practice and welcome to Mohua. The decision-making process depends on these practice guides everyone, both for knowledge sharing of such an innovative idea for everyone. And for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramalata. I think there was some audio issues, but we were able to get part of your welcome. Thank you, ma'am. I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Mohua to you. Dr. Mohua Chakraborty Choudhury is a DST STI Policy Fellow of the 2019 cohort hosted at the Indian Institute of Science, and she is a member of the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy Secretariat of the Government of India. She is basically a health policy researcher with special interest in rare diseases and clinical trials. She has been associated in this capacity with various organizations, and she has also served as a scientific advisor to one such pioneering umbrella organization, the ORDI. Her doctoral work was on molecular phylogeny with some interesting publications on the DNA barcoding of Indian freshwater fishes. So she is part of this secretariat, that is actually formulating this very important policy that is going to impact each one of us. Let's hear from you, Dr. Mohua.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant, for the kind introduction. I'll start with sharing my slides. So just give me a moment for that. So is that visible?
Yeah. You can put it on slideshow. Yeah, it's fine. It's come. It is on slideshow now.
Okay, Namaskar and hello everyone. Hello, Professor Ramesh. It's a privilege for me to share screen space with you. And hello to all the eminent chair, moderator of this session. And also to the audience, it's a real privilege to be addressing the audience, this highly esteemed audience today. So I'll be speaking about, I'll be talking on the Science Technology Innovation Policy, which is the 5th National Science Technology Innovation Policy, which is currently being formulated. Me being a part of the STIP Secretariat, we are working on the formulation process, and I'm here to present about how it is being formulated and what are the scope where societies like IEEE can participate and contribute to the process of policy making of the country. So to start with, I'll start with a brief contextual referencing of the previous STI policies of the country. So to start with, 11 years after India got its independence, the first science policy was adopted, which was named the Scientific Policy Resolution. And it had a great role in creating the basics of basic science research, and it emphasized largely on creating the basic infrastructure, critical human resource, and R&D capacities needed to build the foundation of scientific research in the country. 25 years later, during the 1980s, it was seen that the strategic and front-running technologies became increasingly difficult to import. And by now, India had constructed a strong industrial and agricultural base and developed a qualified pool of scientific manpower. So at that point, the Indian government therefore instituted a policy for attainment of technological self-reliance. That was the Technology Policy Statement of 1983. Then around another 20 years later, India had already now adopted and implemented scientific policy and technology policy, but separately. And by the beginning of the new millennium, it was felt to rationalize and amalgamate both science and technology with a merged policy, so that concerns could be addressed by both these units working coherently together. Again, then around 2010-20, India had declared that decade of 2010 to 20 as a decade for innovation. So it became imperative to weave science technology now with a new unit, which is innovation. And since all three required to cooperate and work in coherence, so a merged policy was required. And there came the Science Technology Innovation Policy. So as you can see, as technological development, kind of became faster, was happening at a faster pace, the time frame within which a change of policy was required was also increasingly decreasing. So now if you see 7 years, 7 years down the lane, the science, I'm just trying to change my slide. Is that happening? Yeah.
Yeah, we are in the second slide. Yeah, now
yes,
it is.
yes. Now I think it's done. Yeah. So now, so 7 years down the lane, what we see is that the scope, scale of STI is at a significant transformative phase. And there is therefore a need to have a new policy to pace up with progress in STI. That was already realized. On top of that, this current pandemic has catalyzed the need for new policy instrument, and which also necessitates that it should amalgamate profound and incremental approaches to prioritize and strategize across the STI landscape. Moreover, in the recent years, with the Prime Minister's clarion call on Atmanirbhar Bharat and Vigyan Se Vikas, it also made it more imperative that new STI policy focusing on achieving these goals need to be adopted. So based on that, it became very evident that a new policy has become imperative now. Also, sorry, yeah. So this is a slide on a few recent landmark progress that India has made in the STI scenario, which as you can see, the contextual references that we have given since 2010 or 2014, there have been remarkable progress in actually many fields. Here we have highlighted few, but in many fields, at global rankings, India has improved and performed much better. So with that, the process of conceptualizing a new policy, the STIP 2020 and its formulation process started, DST taking the lead role along with PSA in that. So this STIP 2020, the new policy is based on this unique features which forms its main pillars in the policy formulation process, which is bottom-up, decentralized, expert-driven, evidence-based, and inclusive. So usually the policies in India, policies have been mostly wisdom-based, but here the primary focus is on making it as much as possible evidence-based and also as inclusive as possible, including participation from different stakeholders, including public participation and every possible participation, and including their recommendations and suggestions into the policy-making process. So with that, how the policy is being formulated, it's a 4-track process. All the 4 tracks are running in parallel. They are highly interconnected and they are highly participative. Each track is highly participative and very inclusive. So this, I'll go in details for the 4 track. So to start with, the track 1 process. The track 1 is the extended public and expert consultation process. And the track 1 is the process where we actually look forward to engagement from the public and various associations. So the expert engagement from IEEE is also looked into this track. So I'll go in detail for this track. So here, the aim is to gather information, comments, and inputs from across the country, and the attempt is trying to make it as inclusive as possible, so as to include every section of the society from various regions and population of all ages, educational and cultural backgrounds. So in addressing this, structure has been designed very carefully, keeping the limitations such as access, reach, digital services, language barriers, and the last mile connectivity of different stakeholder groups in mind. So it is divided, the first track 1 is divided into 6 large activities. The first one is the in conversation with activity, which is a series of interviews with expert and thought leaders in STI domain. It is live streamed and large public participation is encouraged. It is highly publicized in various social media platforms so as to encourage public participation. The first event in the series has been a widely successful event, which was in conversation with Dr. Harshvardhan and the Honorable Science Technology Minister and Professor Ashutosh Sharma, DST Secretary. And it has gained wide public viewership and large traction in the social media. So that is also still available in YouTube, and people who have missed the event can go and see this event. So that has been the first one, but more to follow in the series. Then the second event being the Across the Table, which is a series of discussion sessions with experts in 15 different thematic areas. These thematic areas have been carefully selected, so which contributes significantly in the policy policy draft and policy making process. These discussions were held between several experts in those specific areas, and this was also live streamed, and huge public participation we have got, and this is also available in YouTube and in the Science Policy Forum platform. So again, those who have missed can go and visit this topics and this discussion sessions. So these two sessions were kind of expert driven in that way, because public participation was largely to, kind of the comments and queries that were received during the process. However, the whatever discussion had come out, this had directly feed into the policy draft that is being processed now. The remaining policy compass, open letter, and ideathon, I'll be talking in my next slide in detail. I'll just give a brief intro to the Thoughts for India, which the Thoughts for India is a podcast series with community, with high participation from the community radios. It has been done in various languages. The idea was to attain the last mile connectivity, and for those who cannot maybe participate, those regions and those portions who cannot participate through other activities that we have here. So and also to encourage, also to deliver the idea of the policy making to the last mile and to the far off regions through community radios. So this also have been a very successful event, the Thoughts for India. So moving on to my next slide, here I would like to focus on three specific activities of the part one, which I spoke here: policy compass, open letter, and Thoughts for ideathon. The reason being that is that here we encourage your participation, IEEE's participation in the track one process. So here we have these three. The first one is policy compass. And just to note that all of this are available in the Science Policy Forum platform, where you can log in and see for details and participation. So the Policy Compass is a platform where we welcome, it's kind of an online survey where inputs are welcome from people of different age group and different educational background, and it's being designed in a way that it targets different audiences. So and you can participate in the survey, and the input from the survey will directly feed into the policy making process. So yeah, do please visit that site. The other one is the open letter. If you have any thoughts, any ideas, suggestions, recommendations, views, anything that could help in the nation building, that could help in the policy making process, that could strengthen the policy, anything, any idea in mind, feel free to write and send it across. You can publish it in any newspaper or open public forum that you can publish, and you can send the published material across as well. Also, there is no language barriers. You are welcome to write in your mother tongue. You are welcome to write in your regional language. Everything will be included. Any important suggestions, any important views might get included in the policy, might get focused in the policy. We have another document, which is the policy process framework document, might get focused there, or might be featured in the Science Policy Forum platform. The third in the line is the ideathon. So if you are more creative and with your ideas and views, you can put your ideas and views out in different forms. Maybe it could be anything. It could be a short film. It could be graphics. It could be a cartoon. It could be anything where you can just bring out your creativity. So you can send it across, and this is a kind of competition. The best selectees will get prizes, and the prizes are in different age groups. Also, this might get focused in the PPFD document, or the best could also get featured in the Science Policy Forum platform. So these are the 3 wide-ranging activities which are all open, and the activities are still open till September 30th. And for any details and participation, please visit the sciencepolicyforum.org. So with that, I'll go to the just a moment. Yeah, I'll go to the next slide, which is the track 2. So all this was about track 1, and here I talk about the track 2. The track 2 was the crux of the policy formulation process. Here, 21 thematic groups were designed, keeping in mind the various needs and various sectors of the STI process. And these 21 groups were constituted of balanced stakeholder representation from government, academia, industry, non-governmental organizations, and various think tanks. They were expert driven, and they through a series of deliberations, meetings, they kind of fed informed evidence informed recommendations. They submitted evidence informed recommendations in the specific areas of concern, and these recommendations were collated, and they formed the basis of the first draft of the new policy. So this, along with the various inputs from various other tracks, is being the backbone of the draft of the policy that is going to come. The emphasis here was on evidence-based, and the emphasis was on expert-driven, and also that it was inclusive in a sense that representation from various stakeholders were taken into consideration directly here. So this process is the first part has been completed. So with that, I'm moving to the track 3. Here it is the ministries and state consultation. The aim of this track was to strengthen the regional STI ecosystem and also to encourage participation of the states in the national STI policy making process. Also, here we had 2 big activities. One was where where the nodal officers were nominated, and each ministry and departments of the government were contacted to give their inputs for the policy in a template that was provided to them. The second is an upcoming mega event where a huge consultation will be chaired by Dr. Harshvardhan, Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, for an interaction meeting with state S&T ministers. And we hope that a lot of inputs and recommendations and insights will come out from this huge meeting that is going to happen soon. End my presentation here, but we do look forward to very active participation of IEEE and all the members here. Your input, suggestions, your insights will be very valuable in the policy making process, and also the policy that will be the outcome result of the process and will definitely help in nation building. So this is our STIP Secretariat that we have, headed by Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, and various DST and PSA officials are there, and then we all policy fellows make up this STIP 25, STIP 2020 25 member STIP Secretariat. So thank you from all of us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohua. I think we got a very fairly good idea about the bottom-up evidence-based process that the government is now embarked on. And I, for one, want to add on to this presentation on how to engage, because you know, I myself, I actually am the campus ambassador for the STIP in my university where I'm employed, the Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham Coimbatore. And I have seen that, you know, as a campus ambassador, I'm trying to get people to contribute. And I have seen that the responses have been tremendous. I got an energy policy expert in our business school to give some inputs, and the acknowledgement from the ministry has been so fast and so proactive. So I see, each one of you in various universities and various companies can function like an ambassador and champion this process of formulation and contributing to nation building. So over to you, Dr. Naveen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohua, for a great introduction about STIP. So we have, in fact, the presentation was very insightful, and we got to know about the process and insights, how it is getting done. So now, moving on to the next agenda. So we have Dr. Professor S.K. Ramesh. So he's a professor of electrical and computer engineering and investigator of the Bridging the Gap, Enhancing AIM Square for Student Success Program, supported by a multi-year grant from US Department of Education's HSI STEM program. AIM Square has received several national and international awards for improving student success with high-impact practices, including undergraduate research and mentoring. It was selected as the 2019 Baccalaureate Program of the Year and named the 2019 Example of Excellencia by Excellencia in Education. Earlier, he served as the Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science at California State University, Northridge from 2006 to 2017. Prior to joining CSEN, he was Professor of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at California State University, Sacramento, where he served as the department chair from 1994 to 2006. So the programs he established serve industry practitioners in high-wage, high-demand fields, including renewable energy, assistive technology, and advanced manufacturing. Dr. selected to the ABET Board of Directors as the Director of the Engineering Area Delegation of ABET. Additionally, Ramesh is an experienced IEEE program evaluator and has performed several ABET accreditation visits in the United States and internationally. Dr. Ramesh has served on several boards, including the IEEE Board of Directors, IEEE Educational Activities Board, the IEEE HKN Board of Governors, IEEE Publication Services and Products Board, IEEE Awards Board, and the ABET Board of Delegates. Also, he has served widely. He is presently a candidate for the 2021 IEEE President-elect position, along with Professor Ray Liu and Professor Saifur Rahman. Dr. Ramesh served as 2016-17 IEEE Vice President for Educational Activities, as well as the IEEE HKN President for 2016. He has served on the IEEE Fellows Committee and various committees of high-level committees of IEEE, like Strategic Alignment Committee and HKN Development Committee. Under his leadership, it has resulted in significant gifts to support IEEE HKN, which is the Honor Society in IEEE. As 2016-17 Vice President of Activities of IEEE, he championed diversity and inclusion in excellence through innovative programs like IEEE Learning Network, which was used by a wide range of members and people in IEEE. His many recognitions include the John Gora Engineering Educator of the Year, William Johnson International Award for Leadership and Contribution to the Profession, and IEEE Region 10 Community Service Award. Dr. Ramesh professional interests are in fiber optic communication, and he has received BE degree from Regional Engineering College, Tiruchirappalli, at now it is National Institute of Technology, Trichy. He received the graduation in 1981, and MSEE program and Ph.D. degrees from Southern Illinois University in 1983 and 86 respectively. Dr. Ramesh was elevated to the grade of IEEE Fellow in the year 2015 for his contributions to entrepreneurship in engineering education. So with this brief introduction, so we have Dr. Ramesh to talk about the today's theme, industry engagement. So it's a great pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, Vanakkam to all of you in India. It is a great evening here in Los Angeles, where I live, and it's truly wonderful for me to come to you live, to those of you participating in this call. First, let me thank the organizers, particularly the Science and Technology Innovation Forum. Dr. Mohua Chakraborty, your introduction was really succinct and captured for me what the direction is that India is taking. And this is very heartening to see. It's very heartening to see people like you at the forefront of this innovation policy. I also want to thank my colleagues, Professor Ramlatha Marimuthu, Professor Prashant Nair, Professor Navneet Krishnan, as well as a number of students who are supporting this event, faculty, members of the public, anybody who's listening in today. I'm going to begin sharing my screen, Professor Navneet. So I believe I'm the presenter right now, so let's hope that I can do that.
Yeah, it's possible.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I'm going to spend probably the next half an hour speaking to you about the topics that you heard today, which is India's push in terms of science, technology, and innovation. And in particular, the remarks that I'm going to make to you today are how can we engage industry to engineer the future? And I could not think of a better image than the one that I'm sharing in front of you with our dear president, the late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This photograph was taken in 2009 when Dr. Kalam received the Von Karman Award, which is the highest award given in the aerospace industry at Caltech. And he happened to be visiting Caltech. I had a chance to meet him in person and speak to him. And we had a wonderful conversation that I cherish to this day. So I put my remarks together, thinking about that conversation back from 2009 in October on the role of professional organizations and how we can work together really to engineer the future and to support India's vision of science, technology, and innovation. So who better to begin with than Dr. Kalam himself? And if you haven't read these books, I strongly recommend you pick up a copy. This is a book that I picked up actually back during that trip in 2009. It's called India 2020, A Vision for the New Millennium. And the other book is his biography, where he talks about his rise as India's foremost rocket scientist, a book called Wings of Fire. And it so happened, I had visited Chennai that year, that's my hometown, and I picked up copies of Dr. Kalam's biography, Wings of Fire in English, as well as Agnik Chiragahar in Tamil. And I had the books with me when I met President Kalam, and he was kind enough to autograph it for me. But more importantly, the conversation that we had centered on India's need to move forward in terms of science, technology, and innovation. So one of the lines from his book that caught my attention, if you look at India 2020, he says, sight is about what lies right in front of us. Vision is what lies ahead. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about vision. Now, there are 4 areas of development, and Dr. Kalam was very clear about this. People, economy, strategic strength, and infrastructure. And he said in order for us to achieve glory in all of these areas, technology is the answer. And I highlighted something from his book here. He talks about technology not only for the classes, but for the masses. In other words, we need to be thinking about not only our current needs, but providing materials, providing basic utility to people wherever they live in India, in the rural areas, in the mountainous areas, in the cities, in the various urban centers. And technology should not only be able to produce the goods, but also explore ways to sustainably minimize waste and minimize pollution. Brilliant, brilliant man, brilliant vision, a brilliant human being. And his vision still resonates in all of you today as I hear about India's science, technology, innovation policy. Also, by way of inspiration, I want to share with you the words of our late President Pranab Mukherjee, whom we just lost recently. This was in 2014, and President Mukherjee was speaking in Kolkata at the birth anniversary of Acharya Satish Chandra Mukherjee, who was a teacher and educationist. That's a reference right there. You can obviously go there and read his entire speech, but I picked out one particular remark from his speech. He said, if we can make the necessary effort by creating teams of inspired teachers, by establishing linkages with the global educational fraternity through the maximum use of information technology, by placing an emphasis on research, etc., the results will follow. This is a fabulous vision, and as you can see, our leaders going now with our Prime Minister Shri Modi ji with his vision for India is truly putting India on the right track when it comes to science, technology, and innovation policy. So here's what I'd like to talk to you about. And I said, let me just walk back in time to 2015. And this was a conference we had in Bangalore, or Bengaluru as you call it now. It's an international conference on transformations in engineering education. And that's me addressing the audience with colleagues on the stage. But we talked about a number of things, and we said, what are the changes in governance and leadership that I want to see? I'm summarizing for you what I heard in 2015. So what I heard from the audience was we need empowerment. We are looking for autonomy, autonomy in real sense and spirit, decentralization, transparency, trust, and open communications. Then the questions that we asked is, what changes do I want to make to reach the goal? In other words, if you're talking about science, technology, innovation policy, what are the changes we need to make as a nation? What are changes we need to make as a people to make that? Number one is commitment. Number two is leaders. Leaders lead by example, as the leaders are in India. And number three is delegation of power and authority. In other words, we need to empower and enable the population to make the changes, become the change that we wish to see, as Mahatma Gandhi had said. Right? What are the barriers and challenges that face my institution? Again, this is an educational perspective. Remember, this is from 2015. So the voices that I heard were, well, we're part of an affiliated university. We don't really have the autonomy. The interests are varying, the commitment to stakeholders. What can we do? What can we do as individuals? And then we talked about barriers. I said, what resources and what people do we need to overcome those barriers? The answers came very quickly. And you can see the images in front of you. These are some of the colleagues from across India, from research and education and engineering and academia, various disciplines coming together. So the resources were training and guidance, looking for mentors, sharing best practices, using virtual platforms. As you'll hear in my remarks in a few minutes, COVID-19 has actually accelerated a lot of these things. We are breaking down those barriers. The very fact that I'm coming to you live today from Los Angeles and you're spread across India and we are making this happen is really a measure of the success of technology. And then the other question we asked is collaboration. How can others in the room, and think about the room globally as a country, how can others in India help my institution, help my state, help my organization, help my industry achieve that goal? Well, some of the thoughts that came up were faculty exchange, collaboration with industry, faculty, and alumni. So I give this to you by way of a preface of my remarks. So here's what I'd like to talk to you about. First, I want to talk to you about the changing landscape. Then I want to talk to you about the role of innovation and the role of innovation in addressing the grand challenges that confront humanity. I'll talk about professional associations. In particular, there are three associations that I want to talk about. ABET, which is responsible for accreditation. I'll talk about the Wheels Global Foundation, which is made up of alumni from the IITs, and they're doing a tremendous job in India and around the world in terms of water, health, education, energy, livelihood, and sustainability. And then I'll move on and talk to you about IEEE. IEEE is a global organization, and clearly we have a lot of members in IEEE, professional members, students, professors, faculty, many of them engaged actively, deeply in IEEE's activities. And I see IEEE's humanitarian activities as a way for us to move the needle, as a way for us to push the envelope when it comes to innovation. And then I'm going to close my remarks by bringing it closer to home with my academic experience at the university where I work, which is California State University at Northridge, and specifically how we engaged industry. And if we can do it in Los Angeles, I really believe you can do this wherever you are in the world. The ideas are transportable and translatable. And then a few slides putting it all together. So that's the plan of my remarks for the next few minutes. So when I say a rapidly changing landscape, in March of 2020, this was the scene wherever you went. If you came to my campus, you had students sitting on the lawn who were on their smart device. They were probably watching a movie or maybe listening to a podcast or doing a lab assignment. But we were socially connected. We were very close to one another. This was the world that we lived in. And in the space of 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, we went to, this is just a scenario that I'm showing you as it exists today. We are socially connected, but we're socially distant. So the same people that you see on that lawn are no longer physically on that lawn. They're using various platforms to communicate. They're using various platforms to collaborate. The nature of work has changed. The nature of the way we do things has changed. The whole world has changed, right? That's what we're confronting right now with the pandemic that faces us. So what is the role of innovation? What is innovation doing about all of these challenges that is confronting humanity? Well, for inspiration, I want to share this piece for you from the United States National Academy of Engineering. And by the way, this was written in 2008, long before COVID-19, long before Corona was even part of the lexicon. It says, changing the conversation. And I've highlighted a few words there. By the way, the choice of colors, those are the school colors. I come from Cal State Northridge. Our mascot is a matador, and our school colors are red and black. So there's no other affiliation there other than my school colors. So I just want to give full disclosure. So no profession unleashes the spirit of innovation like engineering. From research to real-world applications, engineers are constantly discovering how to improve our lives by creating bold new solutions which connect science to life in unexpected, forward-thinking ways. But see, the next sentence to me is the reason why we're having this conversation. Few have such a direct and positive impact on people's everyday lives, and we are counting on engineers and their imaginations to help us meet the needs of the 21st century. Now, the reason why this publication was written back in 2008 is because in the US, we saw a diminishing of interest in the STEM fields, and we wanted more people to get into the STEM fields because we felt that without a pipeline of students coming in, we would not be able to do the kinds of innovations, the kinds of direct and positive impacts that we expected that would impact people's everyday lives. So where do we begin? Where do we begin to engineer the future? Well, clearly, with lockdowns and working from home, we've slowed down the spread of the virus. But at the same time, the quest is on to find a vaccine, right? In the meanwhile, this has become a daily livelihood. I spend probably 10 or 15 hours online, and I'm sure many of you do the same thing, because this is how we get the work done. This is how we're keeping the economy going. Yet, there has been a tremendous impact on the economy. You think about transportation, you think about agriculture, you think about supply chain. All of these sectors have been disrupted as a result of COVID-19. We're also looking at testing, tracing, and control, because we want to slow down the disease. This involves lots of technologies, AI, 5G, Internet of Things, smart grid, smart technologies. Yet we need to be very careful that these technologies are not abused. These technologies are used in an ethically responsible way so that it serves humanity and yet protects the privacy of the individuals who are involved, right? So the question comes up about innovation. What do we innovate, right? And to me, I define resilience, which is the act of bouncing back, as innovating through adversity, because we're facing adversity like we've never seen before in our lives. We're facing adversity that we've never ever encountered. And yet we need to innovate our way through this. That's the only way forward, not back, but forward. So the questions that come up are, how do we rebuild? What do we rebuild, right? These are national questions. I'm in higher education. My university is completely virtual. All of my students are taking classes virtually, and we're doing our best to deliver labs, lectures, discussions virtually. But ladies and gentlemen, the more important question for you is, we have an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and rebuild what we need. In other words, an innovation-based economy, which aligns perfectly with the conversation that you're having in India right now about science, technology, and innovation. So the challenges have always been there: pollution, congestion, lack of access to clean water, housing, climate change. In California right now, we're facing forest fires like you wouldn't believe. When I looked at the sky this morning, I could not see blue skies. The sky was orange from the smoke from the fires. Healthcare, quality of life. There's also the question of unemployment. Even before COVID-19, we were facing about a 5% unemployment rate in the United States. With COVID-19, that's accelerated to about 20%. Think about the number of jobs we have, about 160 million jobs. So that's 32 million jobs that are in jeopardy as a result of COVID-19. Worldwide, you have about 800 million jobs. And if you apply the same unemployment rates, it is very clear that innovation is the way out of this problem that we are facing. The opportunities also present themselves as the other side of the coin. Just as we went into this problem, now we need to be thinking about sustainable technologies. We need to be thinking about not just transmission grid, but locally sourced energy, solar, wind, photovoltaics, hydro. What can we do locally to support populations? Smart cities, smart grid, digital technologies, used responsibly, used ethically, right? So these are the opportunities that have presented us themselves before us in order to drive the future. So I said, how do we adapt for success, right? How do we future-proof the world? And the first thought that comes to me is a conversation that I had with President Kalam back over a decade ago. And it begins with trust. And trust begins with transparency. It begins with openness. It begins with respect. And it begins with these core values that every child, every person in India, no matter who he or she is, thinks about these and says, these are the values that I'm going to practice going forward. Second, we think about our world today. And 6 months ago, we were jumping on planes, trains, automobiles, going all over the place without really thinking about the impact on the world. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to think about a balance with nature. We're starting to think about leaving a legacy for our children, our grandchildren. In other words, we're really beginning to think about nature, and we're beginning to think about our place in this. Think about this, a very small microbe, right, that causes COVID-19 has brought the whole world to a halt. So we're finally beginning to understand balance. So this is a very important aspect. At the same time, we're very thankful. I'm seeing levels of collaboration that I have never seen before, right? Nations, regions, states, communities are coming together to collaborate, to make a difference, to find a cure, to find a vaccine, because this is a challenge that addresses all of humanity. Last but not the least, the challenge that we face has brought up questions about ethics, about fairness, about abilities, about the quality of life itself. So these are all principles that I believe will be the compasses that guide us. You heard about the 3 tracks that Dr. Chakraborty shared with you. Keep these values in mind as you engage through those 3 tracks, because these are the values that will future-proof the world. And in the words of my favorite poet, she is Maya Angelou, whom you can recognize. And one of her famous lines is, lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Remember what I said about resilience, innovating through adversity. And something else that Maya Angelou said is, we may suffer many defeats, but we must not be defeated. We may suffer many defeats, but we must not be defeated. So ladies and gentlemen, keep your spirits high, lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Very good. So where do professional associations come into this picture when it comes to innovation? So I'm going to give you 3 quick examples. And the first one is on accreditation, specifically related to engineering education. So I sit on the board of directors of ABET. ABET is a global nonprofit, non-governmental organization. We accredit more than 4,000 programs around the world in 30 different countries. And it's over 85 years old. IEEE, that I'll talk about momentarily, is a founding member of ABET. Now, when you think about ABET, ABET is made up of a number of societies, but at its core, accreditation goes back to 2 things. Accreditation demonstrates that collegiate programs meet the threshold standards to produce graduates that are ready to enter the profession. You think about India today with the STIP policy. You think about the remarks of our Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan. What they're saying is, when a graduate leaves an institution, whether they study medicine, economics, literature, commerce, engineering, whatever branch of engineering they study, they should be ready to enter the profession. And the institutions are committed to improving the educational experience of the students. So this is something that accreditation demonstrates. In India, we have the NBA, right? NBA is a member of the Washington Accord. And so tier 1 institutions in the NBA demonstrate the value of accreditation. Second, it provides value to all the constituents, students, institutions, faculty, global industry, and the general public. So it provides quality assurance to everybody that accreditation matters. Who is ABET, you ask? Well, ABET is us, right? And ABET ensures that the requirements to enter the profession are met. We provide a direct influence on the educational process through industry advisory groups. We also provide an aid in hiring. The other day I was on Indeed.com, which is a job site, and I typed in ABET. 6,627 hits popped up. So basically people are saying that if you are looking for a job in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, whatever discipline you're looking in, we are looking for graduates who came out of an ABET accredited program. So you see, that's where the quality assurance comes in. And if you ask who ABET is a federation of 36 member societies. So IEEE is there prominently. We're the largest society with an ABET. We have the mechanical engineers, we have the chemical engineers, the biomedical engineers. We have VPAN, which is the Women in Engineering Professional Active Network, which is a associate member society, Society of Women Engineers. I heard diversity and inclusion as being a part of this policy. ABET is very committed to IDE, to inclusion, diversity, and equity, excuse me. Our industry partners, again, are global. So we have industry partners from around the world, and these are not just partners on paper. These are partners that actually drive the development of criteria, that drive the development of the accreditation process, so that when you say you're a graduate that came out of an ABET accredited program or an NBA accredited program, there is a measure of quality that comes with that. That I think is important. So this is a very important role that professional associations play. I talked to you about the Wheels Foundation, and this is from a recent talk that I gave with the Wheels Foundation on the role of professional organizations to address issues and opportunities in the post-COVID world. Wheels is made up of alumni from the Indian Institute of Technology from around the world. And once again, you can go to their website, wheelsglobal.org, and all of their conversations are archived. This is a conversation that we had, I want to say, at the end of July, no, excuse me, August 21st. Time flies by, right? We live in these virtual modalities. I have no idea what day or time it is. But if you look at the panel that we had Dr. Sudhakar, John Lagara on the right. Dr. Sudhakar is the president of API. API is the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. So we were talking to doctors, we were talking to engineers, we were talking to folks who live on both sides of the house, like Dr. Vikas Khurana, who's a gastroenterologist, but he's also an engineering management professional. Krishan Dar, a Pan IIT alumni from India. Sundaram Srinivasan, who's the Pan IIT alumni chair from USA, and Suresh Shenoy, who's the president of the Wheels Global Foundation. They're making a tremendous difference in India in terms of rural healthcare, rural education, and I know a number of them will be involved in the science, technology, innovation policy, as will be the faculty from my alma mater, from NIT Trichy, from all the institutions around the country will be involved in this. So the role of professional associations in innovation in science and technology is fundamental, is existential to our policy. Now let me move to IEEE, because IEEE, I believe, is truly an exemplar for what we're trying to do. So when I think about IEEE, the first thing that flashes in my mind is our mission, advancing technology for humanity. How does it happen? That happens because of our members. The IEEE, I'd say in a lot of my conversations, it's an IEEE of the members, by the members, and for the members, from students to professionals to industry practitioners, faculty. We foster technological innovation and excellence to benefit humanity. And if you look at our vision is really, really relevant to our current times. We're essential to the global technical community. We produce standards, publications, conferences that are universally recognized. If you look at the IEEE, one of the slides that Dr. Chakraborty shared was about India's rise in terms of publications and conferences, in terms of impact, research impact. When you look at the top 25 journals in the fields of electrical engineering, and they're very broad, 23 of the top 25 journals are from the IEEE, 23 of the top 25. And we're just not a publishing house in terms of paper publications. We are racing ahead with open access because we really want to share what we have with humanity. So let me give you a snapshot. Over 400,000 members in 160 countries, 46 technical societies and councils, over 125,000 student members. Global reach, right? We're in every continent in the world. 1,900 annual conferences. By the way, COVID-19 may have shut down global transportation, but our conferences are going on just the same. Our International Conference in Acoustic Speech and Signal Processing, that usually draws about 3,000 individuals had over 16,000 attending. The Women in Engineering Conference had over 11,000 attending. They had over 5 million technical documents, over 200 top-cited periodicals, 1,300 active standards. If you turn on a switch, if you drive a car, thank an IEEE engineer for it because it's a standard that goes behind it. Technical breadth, unparalleled, right? Social impact. This is where I think innovation plays a part. IEEE plays a tremendous role in global public policy, global humanitarian efforts, continuing education, and ethics and technology. This is very important for me. Do the right thing when nobody's looking, because nobody's looking right now. We're all sort of working from home, but we need to do the right thing, okay? So what is our strategic plan? Our strategic plan builds on our core values. And by now, I think you get a flavor for what our core values are. Trust, global community building, integrity, service to humanity, growth and nurturing, partnership. See, I highlighted a couple of things for you on the right because I anticipated that the audience will have a lot of educators. IEEE wants to enhance public understanding of engineering. We want to be a trusted source of educational service and resources. We want to support lifelong learning, and we want to provide opportunities for career and professional development. We're not talking about the next decade. We're talking about the next millennium, right? I picked up a copy of National Geographic not too long ago, which said 2070, the optimist view of 2070 and the pessimist view of 2070. IEEE is all about the optimist view of 2070. The people in the call, the students in the call, the children who are yet to be born, we want to provide opportunities for them for career and professional development. More importantly, we want to inspire a worldwide audience by building communities and forming public policy and serving humanity, okay? Now, when I look at the world today, and I think about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a number of you have probably seen this. This is where I feel IEEE entrepreneurship and humanitarian activities confluence, right? Literally think about this as two rivers. IEEE's mission is advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. The United Nations says, eliminate poverty, eliminate hunger, provide good health, provide quality education, provide innovation infrastructure, provide good jobs, provide equity, provide inclusivity, and ensure that a diverse population, no matter where they live and work, no matter what language they speak, what culture they're from, have access to all of these facilities. So ladies and gentlemen, we're finally at the point where IEEE's mission is going to be very relevant, not just for the next decade, for the next millennia coming ahead, okay? So how can you engage through IEEE's humanitarian activities? I want to give you one example. And the example is EPICS in IEEE. EPICS in IEEE stands for Engineering Projects and Community Service. We have a whole humanitarian activities committee, and I could spend a whole day talking to you about it. And I will come back. I promise you I'll come back and have that conversation. But I want to talk to you about EPICS. And the reason why I picked EPICS is because EPICS stands on 3 pillars. It involves students in universities, it involves pre-university students, and it involves nonprofit organizations. What do they work on? 4 pillars: access and abilities, education and outreach, environment, and human services. If you're interested today to propose a project on EPICS, go to epics.ieee.org, submit a proposal. It's very simple. And it only takes a few pages. And within 30 days, you'll have a response back from IEEE. Now, the reason why this program has been so successful is because it truly engages the community. See, IEEE, if you're a volunteer leader, you hear about this committee and that committee. IEEE is not about committees, folks. It's about communities. It's about community building. Advancing technology for the benefit of humanity doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design because we build these agile, nimble, supportive communities to make a difference, right? So in 2018, when I was Vice President for Educational Activities, I said, what can we do with EPICS and IEEE, specifically in India? Now, this is a program that came out of Purdue, IEEE, EPICS. So we developed a partnership model in India where EPICS would become part of the curriculum. So if you join a university as a first-year student, and then you go through and complete your program in 4 years, you will be engaged in some aspect of EPICS. So this is what we developed with our partnership. And same model, so we had a number of universities in India. Purdue University is partner with IEEE, and EPICS and IEEE. So with the MOU that we signed, you can see a lot of the people there who came to New Jersey. That's Professor Bill Oakes next to me, who's the leader of the EPICS program from Purdue. Professor Krishna Vedula, who runs an organization called IUCEE, which is the Indo-Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education. A number of the principals the leaders from educational institutions in India who came to New Jersey to sign the MOU. Now, what we did, and I went back to my alma mater, that's me in NIT Trichy, with the faculty there, the director, signing an MOU in Trichy in May of 2018 to invite NIT to be a part of this program. So what's the difference, right? So currently we have 13 institutions participating in the partnership in India. And we do the same projects, but now the projects are part of the curriculum. So we actually have communications with the faculty and staff with the collaboration from universities around the world at NIT. And I know some of my classmates are on this call. We donated money. We actually set up a lab, an IoT lab at NIT, in order for students to be able to work on Internet of Things type of projects there. And then we said we expect the universities to make changes in their curriculum so that service learning becomes an integral part, so that students are thinking beyond just their own discipline of how they can serve their community. Right now, maybe COVID-19 is the issue, but clean water could be an issue, pollution control could be an issue, congestion could be an issue. Whatever the issue is, how can you use technology to solve these problems, right? So this was the EPICS program that we did. And just to give you a snapshot, EPICS has been around for well over a decade. It's been in all the continents, and 5 continents, I should say. About a third of our projects are in India. What I really like about diversity and inclusion is that 36% of the university students involved are women, 42% of the pre-university students are women. This is very important to me. The program that I run, AIM Squared at Cal State Northridge, attract, inspire, mentor, and support students, targets first-generation students, students who are first in their family to go to college. Many of them don't even speak English when they come into the university. And they graduate 4 or 5 years later with degrees in engineering and computer science, wanting to serve their community. So this is the power of education. This is the power that President Mukherjee talked about, where you can collaborate with the community. This is the power that President Kalam talked about, that you can come together as a community to make a difference for India, right? So I'm going to pivot now and talk to you about examples of industry engagement from my university, and hopefully some examples that you can use in your own lives as you go ahead with the science, technology, innovation policy. So Cal State, I'm part of a 23 campus system. It is the largest public university system in the United States, roughly 500,000 students, about 100,000 degrees every year. Now, would you believe it? Right now, all 23 campuses are completely virtual, completely online, right? So we pivoted from face-to-face to completely online. All of our degree programs are being offered online, with the exception of a few labs, mechanical engineering labs, biology labs, biochemistry labs that have to be done in person. But we are operating with strict social distancing guidelines. So this is the system that I'm a part of. I taught at Sacramento, which is up north, and now I'm at Northridge, which is about 25 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. This is my school. When I say my school, I still take ownership. I'm not the dean anymore, but this is my school, this is my family, this is my community, these are my students, these are my faculty, right? And if you look at these images, they say a picture can convey 1,000 words. And I said, if I put 1,000 pictures together, maybe I can expand. I'm a communications engineer. I'm always trying to squeeze more information about that 1 hertz of bandwidth to increase the spectral efficiency, right? So I said, let me put a lot of pictures here so you can see how the students and faculty and staff in the College of Engineering and Computer Science are working on everything from unmanned aerial vehicles to steel bridges to CubeSat projects where we're launching satellites to go in space to monitor the weather. These are the kind of projects that our students work on to serve the community. But remember, every single student here has a mission in life. And the mission is, no matter what my discipline is, no matter what my degree is, my goal when I graduate is to make a difference in my community. And this aligns so well with IEEE's mission, advancing technology for humanity. So I want to talk to you about 3 programs. Project Showcase on the right, TechFest on the left, and then these are 2 programs, really, Honors Co-op and Design Clinics. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do these in your colleges today. If you have the will, you can do this. And I'm going to show you how you can do this. When you think about your university, you have students. Your students graduate, they go and find jobs, you have employers, your students become alumni, they go to industry. So in our college, we set up something called an ILC. So what is an ILC? ILC is Industry Liaison Council, right? So the Industry Liaison Council is made up of recent graduates. So graduates who graduated 3 to 5 years from your program. So they form part of the Industry Liaison Council. You also invite managers from the companies that hire our students. What they do is they meet regularly with the faculty. By this, I mean they meet at least twice or thrice a semester, and they talk very deeply about the curriculum. So if you're a mechanical engineer studying thermodynamics, heat transfer. If you're an electrical engineer studying VLSI, you're studying power engineering, communications. If you're a chemical engineer and so on, whatever discipline you're in, right? They talk about what is being taught, how it is being taught, and how it can be improved. So these conversations are taking place at the department level, at the programmatic level. At the college level, I created something called the Industry Advisory Board. The Industry Advisory Board is made up of senior level administrators. So these are vice presidents and CEOs of companies who have both the responsibility for strategic direction as well as the resources. So some of them are managers of multi-million-dollar projects. You know, I had the vice president of Northrop Grumman on my Industry Advisory Board. She was responsible for a workforce of over 15,000 employees in Northrop Grumman Aerospace and billions of dollars in business. She was part of the Industry Advisory Board. Now, they would provide information on strategic direction. And some of these images that you see here are actually from our Industry Advisory Board meeting, our meeting with our students, our meeting with our Tech Fest, etc. But all of this goes back to one thing and one thing only, which is student success. So how do we engage them? In Tech Fest is a job fair. So twice a year, we invite companies to come to the university to talk to our students. But we made it more than just a job fair. This is just a 360 view that I'm showing you, where you have booths, students are moving around with their resumes and so forth. But around this entire auditorium, I have rooms that can seat maybe 10 or 15 people. And in each of those rooms, we would have alumni who graduated 3 to 5 years ago who would come in, and I gave the alumni 3 things. I said, tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us how your education prepared you for what you do. 3 things: who you are, what you do, and how your education prepared you for what you do, right? And I would have all my students, not just the graduating students, every student from first year to final year to graduate school, go attend this. This has now become an institutional practice. Tech Fest is now done across the university. My university has 40,000 students, 40,000 in a variety of disciplines. They do career day, and they model career day based on Tech Fest. You can do this today in your college. You can do this today in your program. The IAB and ILC also sponsor what are known as honors co-op and design clinics. So a design clinic is where the industry comes to us and says, here's a problem that we'd like you to solve. Now remember, the problems don't neatly come packaged in disciplines. The problems are interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. It requires the students to go into the community to find out what the issues are, what the constraints are. And yes, there are resources. You don't have infinite resources to solve the problem. So how do you solve the problem within budget, within time, to make a difference in the community? How do you assess the project? How do you deliver on the outcomes? These are the individuals who make it happen, and you can do this today by engaging with your alumni, engaging with your employers, engaging with your graduate participants, asking them to make a difference. But it has to be truth in advertising. In other words, you cannot just sign an MOU and tell them, look, you know, we're going to do this. You really, really need to be open and transparent and be willing to listen, right? That's very important as you look at change. I want to show you how we do this very quickly. SDPS is a Senior Design Project Showcase, something that I started as Dean. And this is where the same image that you see again, where our students demonstrate their capstone projects. They used to do this in a very siloed fashion. The EEs would invite industry from EE. The mechanical engineers would just invite industry from mechanical engineering. And when I came to Northridge as Dean, I said, you know, can we do something about doing this across the disciplines? Because what you're doing is really making a difference for everyone. What if you just have a showcase? What if you just invite the public? What if you invite your families to this? Because a lot of your families probably don't know what it is you do. And then the faculty got very engaged and they said, oh, we need to grade these. You know, we can give them a grade on this. I said, stop. We don't want the faculty to grade these. In fact, I don't want the faculty to be engaged in any way, shape, or form in the assessment of the showcase. They said, wait a minute, who's going to grade this? We're the faculty, we teach these courses. I said, no, what I'd like you to do is to have industry grade these projects. You can imagine the reaction, right? They said, oh, industry. Well, industry is where your graduates are going to work. So if you're preparing graduates for industry, what is wrong with having graduates come and evaluate your projects? So we started there, but we didn't stop there, right? So we got industry together. There was about 35 judges from industry who come and evaluate everything from oral presentations to the displays themselves. and they go through a rigorous set of rubrics. The faculty are involved, right? I can't just say the faculty are not going to be involved. The faculty were the moderators for the session. All the faculty could do was to invite the industry. It would be completely judged by industry, completely evaluated by industry, and they would be the ones looking at clarity, methodology, interpretation of results. I'm showing you the evaluation categories for oral presentations. But the scoring rubric is even more detailed, right? I know this is an eye test. You're not going to be able to read all of this, but I can share all of this information with all of this is online, so you can see this. So we have detailed scoring rubrics, attributes associated with each of these rubrics. Again, please remind yourselves, who was actually doing the evaluation? Industry, right? And we trained industry so that they understood what the students were doing. So this is for oral presentations. When it came to project displays, some of these projects are very complex. Our formula car has 50 students working on it. They use carbon fiber materials to make the car. They actually race the car. Our brain control interface for a wheelchair puts together laser rangefinders, vision technologies, microwave technologies, GPS. You know, it's a combination of mechanical, electrical, artificial intelligence, manufacturing, you name it. And so we evaluate them on technical content, project management, presentation and display, and yes, we give them extra credit. We say intangibles. So if somebody went above and beyond, I tell the judges, give them 5% for the extra credit, right? So they rate these. So all of this information is collected, it is shared with the students, it is shared with the faculty, and we have a lot of fun. So we have best in showcase, we have the best project, we have the best project in a particular discipline, the best presentation, so on, because everybody wants to celebrate. Everybody really, really wants to understand how they can make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do this today in your classrooms in India. When you're thinking about science, technology, innovation policy, look at your own classroom, look at engaging with your alumni, look at engaging with industry, and make a difference in the lives of your students. Because your students are not going to be with you forever. They're going to leave, they're going to graduate. And when they go out, they need to be prepared to practice. They will make mistakes. That's engineering. 9 times out of 10, the things we try are going to fail. But the one thing that succeeds, that's innovation. Innovating in the face of adversity, that's resilience. And that's exactly what we need to combat COVID-19. Okay? So here's a rubric for senior design project display. Again, I can share all of these resources with you. All of these are available. We actually videotape all of our presentations too. By the way, I talked about accreditation. When ABET visits my campus, all this data is analyzed, is synthesized, and we present this to them as a way to assure them about the quality. Can you guess how many of our students get jobs? 9 out of 10 students walk out of Showcase with a job offer in their hands, and they're working on projects that they care about. Okay, so this is really important. I think it's very important for us to connect jobs, careers, continuing education, professional development in order for us to drive the future. All right, let's put it all together because I know I've been going on for a while. So how do we engineer the future? I think we need to be thinking about the skill sets that are needed for the jobs of the future. Clearly, from what I've shared with you, communication is important. Teamwork is important. Engineering is a team sport. It's interdisciplinary. You need professional skills. You need to be able to work with diverse engineering environments because the environment can change on you. Systems thinking, I cannot emphasize this enough. We need to be working with doctors. We need to be working with public policy leaders. We need to be working with educators. We need to be working with primary school educators, healthcare workers. We need to be working with everybody, and we need to be thinking sustainably and cross-culturally to address the global challenges with local impact. IEEE can help you here because IEEE has the global organization, the reach, and the technical breadth to make a difference where you live, where you work, now and for the future. And then the new realities of global innovation. You know, before you could go on Amazon, I still do, and order something and have it be delivered to your doorstep immediately. With the disruption to the transportation industry, increasing distance between the people who do the innovation and their markets. So we're going to have to figure out this problem. How are we going to deliver products and services where people live and work in a sustainable way, in a way that takes into account inclusion, diversity, and equity? We need engineers who can compete, great, but more importantly, I think we need engineers who can collaborate globally. Last but not the least, STIP going forward to 2023, you need to be addressing societal needs, inclusion, diversity, and equity, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is our key to our success. As I said, collaboration is vital, right? I've given you a number of examples of how the IEEE does this. IEEE Learning Network is one of them. You know, the virtual conferences I've talked to you about, try engineering together. portal, by the way, if you go to tryengineering.org, there's resources for students, parents, teachers, counselors, lesson plans, what it is to be an engineer, completely free, pop-up free. You can be assured that it's coming from a trusted source, aka the IEEE. But to me, really, collaboration means something else. And it came together very visually. So I want to share this with you. This is a human pyramid, and it's made up of young professionals. So who is a young professional? If you're not an IEEE member, a young professional was somebody who's graduated and was within 15 years from graduation. So when I was on the board in 2016, we had a retreat, and we were inviting young professional leaders from all over the world to the retreat. And we had a break in the retreat, about 15 minutes. We were having coffee, and somebody said pyramid, right? Ramesh Nair is the guy who is in the second level of the pyramid from the IEEE Kerala section. He works for Intel right now. Navas Ravichandran, who's at the base of the pyramid, is with the Madras section of IEEE, and many other volunteers right there. Sarang Sheikh from Pakistan is one of the volunteers. We said pyramid. One person said pyramid. Within seconds, ladies and gentlemen, these students, these young professionals, excuse me, got together, they collaborated, they communicated, they formed a pyramid. That took collaboration, it took teamwork, it took really trust, right? Because the people at the base need to know that they provide a strong foundation. The people who are standing on top of that base know that they have a solid foundation to build on. This to me brought home collaboration very visually, very powerfully, and something that I carry to this day and age. But again, collaboration doesn't happen alone, right? So this is an African proverb that I learned, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. We cannot do this alone. We need to work together. IEEE, the Wheels Global Foundation, ABET, the Government of India, the universities in India, the schools in India, the industries in India. Every single person needs to be a part of this. But we need to go far, and we need to go together, and that is the only way we're going to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, where are we now? I know we've seen a lot of challenges. There's a few publications that I put up in front of you. Engineer of 2020. We're already there, educating the engineer of 2020. Books by Tom Friedman, where he talks about connectivity and he talks about our impact on our resources. All of these are downloadable, by the way. The engineer of 2020 is from the National Academy of Engineering. You can go to nae.org and download it. And it says you need to be analytical, you need to be a problem solver, you need to be looking at problems from different points. But really, to me, it comes down to innovation. Innovating in the face of adversity, demonstrating resilience, demonstrating courage, and understanding what Maya Angelou said, saying, we'll suffer many defeats, but we must not be defeated. So I'm going to ask you this question. Do you want to make a difference in the world? And I believe every single one of us today will answer that question unequivocally, unabashedly, unambiguously, absolutely yes, we want to make a difference. And we can make a difference, ladies and gentlemen, by inspiring the young people of the world. That's me with a group of students in our Tri Engineering Summer Institute, back when we were face-to-face in 2018. Students out there, some of them want to be artists, some of them want to be astronauts, some of them want to be doctors, some of them want to find a cure for cancer, some of them will find a cure for COVID, and pandemics yet to come. But they had all one thing in common. And the thing that they had in common was, how can we all work together to make a difference in our community? And I capture that by simply saying, I care. Be inclusive, be collaborative, be accountable, be resilient, be ethical. And it's not enough to be just care. You actually need to do this with urgency, because there is no room for complacency. I race, be resilient, be accountable, be collaborative, be ethical. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a real pleasure. So I'll begin where I ended, with an image of President Kalam, with the words of President Mukherjee. Let us all work together on science, technology, innovation to make a difference for India, to make a difference for the world, to make a difference for humanity. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'd like to stop my remarks at this point and open the floor back to the moderators. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramesh. Professional organization, to be precise, how an IEEE can intervene and make the differences. In fact, engineering the world, and how the industry engagement can happen at various levels. it was, really amazing to see the, real cases, whatever you have implemented, during your leadership at various places like season and various bodies at IEEE. We really allowed that, the I care, the things, whatever comes in the I care. Thank you so much, sir. So I would like to invite Professor Prashant Nair to give his remarks and to run the floor.
Thank you, Naveen.
I think you are on mute, Professor Prashant.
Of course, I have been interacting very extensively with Dr. Ramesh. I've been actually inspired by him over the last few months. We've been interacting, and I don't know if the audience heard when he was being introduced by my distinguished colleague, Dr. Navinitha Krishnan. Dr. Ramesh is actually a candidate for the IEEE presidentship. I can only say we are all fingers crossed. We are as excited as you are. That we hope that IEEE has a person of Indian origin at the helm of affairs. We all look forward to it. I think this presentation was so fascinating, and from a university perspective, from an academic perspective, there are so many takeaways from this. I was just reading Dr. Radhika Trikha from the STIP 2020 Secretariat. She has posted a comment. It's a very nice presentation and consultation meeting. It's a great feedback. Thank you, Dr. Radhika Trikha. I am aware of your writings. I follow your writings on the Science Policy Forum. So I think it's been a great opportunity. I think we can have some discussion before we move on to Q&A. Dr. Navin, can you take over?
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Prashant, for your remarks. We have Professor C.V. Gopal from Anna University, who is the senior professor and technology enthusiast and great inspiring volunteer leader from my own section, Madras. So I would like to, call and invite Dr. C.V. Gopal to reflect his thoughts at this.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, you are audible, sir. Welcome, first.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh, for a very nice lecture. Dr. Mohua Chakraborty, thank you very much for a lucid presentation on a very critical topic of science policy. India made a very bold venture with everybody in the world. When we began to open up from a conservative society, we opened up with knowledge. We simply said that we will share the knowledge. It was a very great opening ambit with everybody in the world. A conservative society opening up with knowledge that is fire and which attracts, people will come back. From that kind of a start, we embraced diversity to give ample scope for free will and intentionality. A regulated method on diversity is plurality for structuring into organizations. From plurality, we moved into multi-stakeholder. That is where we are today. We have learned over the past 3 decades, thanks to many professional societies with which I have been associated with, we have learned how to live in a collaborative environment, multi-stakeholder environment. We have begun to respect SLAs, commitments. Everything is now seen. From there, both for the protection of the knowledge as well as jurisprudence, we need to have a policy framework that takes us to localization, not in a short span of time. Nothing significant can happen in less than 10 years, according to my humble submission. So for a span of 10 years, what is that policy that keeps the science, scientist, knowledge worker adequately localized for a community that will include students that move out in about 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and then still want to be with us for 10 years. A policy framework like that is what is challenging us. Very intriguing. At Anna University, we have been having a lot of deliberations. It is absolutely necessary to look at science, the scientist, knowledge worker as at a span of 10 years, adequately localized. What is that framework which we can come about? This is a challenge we have been having. Good institutions, very well managed procedures, policies. We look forward to more suggestions coming in. It should be technology incubation, not people incubation. Thank you.
Professor Chakraborty, I could not agree with you more, and I particularly resonated with the last comment that you made about patience. And I want to share something with you. So it goes like this. You start by doing what is necessary, then you do what is possible, and soon you find yourself doing the impossible. Now, it sounds like an engineer might have said that, but it's actually St. Francis of Assisi who said that. And it is very appropriate for the conversation that we're having today. So you demonstrated, I mean, India is a wonderful, amazing nation with a rich cultural history and a heritage. I mean, we've taught the world, right? And we're in a position right now, the values that we can provide are the ones that the same values that humanity seeks. Now, we're seeking change, and change has to begin gradually, at the same time with urgency. Now, how can we measure it, right? Because I'm a big believer as an engineer, when you put a process together, you start looking locally, right? Monolithically, you might have a university, you're part of Anna University, you have a lot of colleges affiliated with them and so forth. Encourage those colleges to reach out, to build the kind of relationships with their constituents. If it's industry where their graduates are going, if it's graduate school that they're going, or if they're just going to service learning or public policy, whatever it is they're doing, engage them in a very tangible local way and make it transparent and open. Because, Professor Ramlata is on the call right here. When I connected with her over a decade ago, what brought us together was a mutual interest in the area of assistive technology engineering, because we both were looking at how can we use technology to help people with various kinds of disabilities, in this case, hearing and visual disabilities. But from there on, we formed partnerships, the faculty started collaborating, students started working together, I was on our board of studies, it blossomed, right? So you have to allow time for that to happen, and you have to create an environment. This is where leadership comes in. So the government is doing the right thing by innovating the 3 tracks that I heard about, track 1, track 2, and track 3. And then within those tracks, empower and enable the stakeholders. This is vital, right? So if you're a leader, you are the principal of a college, you're the head of the department, you're the dean of a college. Empower the people who work with you. They'll make mistakes. Undoubtedly, they'll make mistakes, right? Nothing is perfect, but give them the opportunity to make those mistakes and learn from them, because the end result will be much richer as a result of that experience. And really go into this with the attitude, like, we don't know what the future holds, but we know the direction we want to go in, and we want to know how the future is going to unfold before us. There are so many industries that have been disrupted today. And I bet you 5 years from now, if you have this conversation, we'll be talking about how 2020 was a seminal moment in time where humanity came to a standstill and we had to figure out how to get out of this box. So don't be afraid, be bold, be brave, try different things, but above all, be patient, empower and enable the people that you work with to make a difference. Support them, assess, measure, learn, value what you measure what you value.
Thank you very much. Very positive and forward looking. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor T.V. Gopal, for your remarks and comments. So, considering the limitation of time, we are moving to the Q&A. So, Professor Prashant, can you please take over? I think you are on mute.
So we can have some queries. I'm not getting the chat channel. I think Ramnik, are you here? Can you? Ramnik is the coordinator of this session. He's a very dynamic young professional who works at Wipro and a very active IEEE member. Ramnik, can you please flag the questions?
Yeah, sure, sir. I hope I am audible. Yeah.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So let me take the first question in the QA panel. Industry academia is a good success in US, but unfortunately, this interaction is not that successful. I'm not able to identify the main reason for the reluctance of industries to associate with academia. Would you mind to throw some light onto that issue? Over to you, Ramesh sir and Mohua ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Good to hear your voice again. So the question, there's a little bit of noise there in the audio, if you could. Ramni, can we control the audio? Yeah, great. Thank you. So the question relates to how the industry engagement can happen in India. So I want to share one resource with you that I mentioned during my remarks, and I know it's recorded, so you can see it again. It's IUCEE, that is the Indo-Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education. It was founded by Professor Krishna Vedula with support from Infosys at that time. Sri Narayana Murthy supported it, as well as Sri Desh Deshpande supported IUCEE. Now we have a number of partner institutions in India. I want to say probably about 75 or 80 institutions. And every year for the last decade, they've been hosting this conference called International Conference on Transformations in Engineering Education. So the conference looks at different aspects of the Indian ecosystem in higher education, governance and leadership, global attributes of engineers. How do we improve the curriculum? How do we support faculty development? How do we connect with the community? How do we bring service learning into the program? So all of these aspects are included in that. And what has happened over time is that we have actually developed a really solid pool of experts, I want to say, from India, faculty, industry practitioners who believe in this, who connect with colleagues from around the world, not just the US, by the way. There are people from all over the world, from Europe, Middle East, Africa, who come and participate in these forums. So I definitely recommend that you look at that. I personally taught in that program about 10 years ago. I taught a MOOC when MOOCs were first coming out because I wanted to make sure that people understood that we could use technology to deliver education. And even though I was a dean and I was very busy administratively, I found myself doing that. So I would say cultural change takes a little bit of time to happen, but start by talking to your local community. If you have an IEEE student branch in your community, if you have an IEEE section in your community, I know you do, talk to them and find out how you can engage with the local community as far as IEEE's mission is concerned. So the problem might be, with COVID-19, we want to know what the rate of infection is. Well, maybe you have some smart people right there who can use the technologies that IEEE scientists and engineers create with the AI and 5G and IoT and so on to be able to actually monitor and create a database in real time, be able to show to you what is happening. So find ways to engage with industry that are tangible, but above all, get the ownership and get the support of your administration. ICT IEE is a conference that I'd strongly recommend. I believe it's going to be virtual in 2021. It's going to happen in January of 2021. They've done this in a number of different cities, in Hyderabad and Bangalore. I've been to Hubli myself a few years ago when we were talking about the Make in India initiative. I came there to give a keynote address on the role of advanced manufacturing. So I'd say it is doable. Patience is the key, right? Don't expect to change things overnight. By the way, those initiatives that I shared with you, like Senior Design Project Showcase and so on, they took a long time. It didn't happen overnight, okay? When I first went in, my faculty simply said, what showcase? We're the ones who grade students. We don't need industry coming in to grade students. So it took a long time to change that culture. And I was persistent. And that's pretty much what you need to be. You need to be persistent without being a pest. And at the same time, figure out a way to bring people along so that they understand that they have a voice in the process.
Dr. Mohua, I'll request you also to contribute, because from a policy framework, we obviously need more of a strong industry, academia, collaboration and interaction. So from a policy perspective, is there something on the cards?
Yes, surely I would like to add on that. And thank you, Professor Ramesh, for your insight, and thank you, Professor Mehta, for taking this up, the industry academia engagement. And I would like to start from where you quoted that community change, cultural change takes time. And maybe just to add on that, maybe leadership and policy level changes can accelerate, maybe add to accelerate that cultural change. So yeah, there is a conscious effort from the policy level, especially in this STIP 2020 part. Because of time constraint, I couldn't display one particular engagement that had happened. That was with a consultation, a 2-day-long deliberation consultation with the CII, where all the industry leaders from India had participated in the STIP 2020 formulation process. And that was an extensive engagement. Their ideas, their insights were taken care, and it's a conscious effort to accelerate the industry, academia, and also industry, academia, and societal engagement, so that research that is happening in the country is not isolated from what is the need of the country, and also what is the need of the industry in the country. So there are various ideas that have come up, like creating this clusters, industry academia clusters, regional clusters, geographical clusters, focusing on those industries which are specific to regions, and then developing the academia, focusing academics research on that area, and then making a network of the local industries that could be connecting the larger industries and also the SMEs on that region, the startups, giving platform to the startups there, and incubators, developing incubators within the industry, and addressing the societal needs there in those particular regions. And in that way, a network, first maybe something in a mode of hub and spoke model could be adopted, with different regions, various region specific clusters could be there, which connects to a larger national network, which also connects to the global network.
Great.
And yeah, so quoting Professor Ashutosh Sharma here, which he quotes several times, which is Hamari Samasya Hamara Samadhan, which has to be the core of it. We have to identify what are the problems, and then ways to figure out things and ways to solve. And this cannot be done without industry, academia, association addressing the societal needs. So this is very core of the policy that is being made, and we do look forward and to addressing those in the upcoming policy. And insights from, as in Professor Ramesh, you shared your real-time experience that you had doing that thing, and I think insights, such insights will be very valuable to construct policy level decisions. And also there is another event, which is the diaspora engagement, which is going to happen, and I think there this kind of engagement, inputs from your side would be very, very valuable. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohua. In fact, you just prompted me. I remembered something that I didn't mention in my remarks about incubators. So when I was dean, this is probably about a decade ago, the mayor at that time, mayor of Los Angeles, was very interested in clean technology. So we started something called LACI, the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. My campus is a leader in renewable energy. So about 20% of our energy comes from fuel cells, photovoltaics. A lot of our students are engaged in that. So they reached out to us and they said, can we have a satellite incubator on campus? And being the entrepreneur that I am, I said, why not? Right. So they came on campus, strictly looking at renewable energy. But then once they came on campus, they realized that we had the College of Education, we had the College of Social Sciences. So can you believe now that we have a company that's working on autism? We have another company that's working on elementary school education. I mean, this is an incubator that came in to develop renewable energy companies. And yes, we do that as well, right? So we do solar, we do all of those technologies, but it's gone way beyond that. I have a company that is involved in medical device, Medtronic Minimed is on my campus. They make insulin pumps for people with diabetes. So it's gone way beyond what we anticipated. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, because when you bring people together in a community such as this, there's no stopping them, right? And the one thing that I did on the faculty side as an administrator is I said, these are the kind of things that I want to see faculty engaged in. So when it came to tenure, promotion, etc., the rewards process, I made sure that these activities were appropriately recognized in those realms. Then automatically it spurs more innovation, because they say, hey, look, if I did that, I got promoted. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Yes, yes. So yeah, to add to this, this concept of engaged university is something that is being really pushed forward in this policy making, so that it's just not limited to the R&D labs, the central national R&D labs, but it is more in the academia as well. So academia being engaged with industry and also the local needs.
And the other part, if I may just briefly, because I heard this, at least I thought I heard this in the question, it's very difficult to get industry to engage with academia in the Indian system and so on. One of the things that I did, this was 30 years ago when I was a department chair at Sacramento, we had two small companies in our neighborhood. One's called Intel, the other one's called HP, right? So Intel and HP had about 500-600 people at that time, and they were just beginning to grow. And one of the things that I did is that I created internships for my faculty. So my faculty spent 1 day a week at Intel and HP. So they were interns. Nobody knew who they were, right? They had a cube. They were part of the project. They just went there and worked. Now, what happened, Dr. Mohua, as a result of this, is that the faculty were coming back into the classroom with cutting-edge knowledge on the latest processes. The students were getting it, but something more magical happened. Now, the students had a direct pathway into these companies because their faculty were actually interns at the companies. And they heard from them firsthand what was happening. Now I look at those places, I mean, Sacramento, the whole economy has changed. And these two companies are the pillars of the economy. So.
Ramnik, you can flag the next question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ramesh sir and Mohua ma'am, for your reflection on the previous question. So we have another interesting question. How are ethical consideration taken into the account while formulating solutions for maintaining quality of education, innovation, thereby preventing malpractices and injustice? Sir.
All right. So if you think about all the organizations that we've talked about today, IEEE, ABET, Wheels Global Foundation, ethics is one of our core values, right? It is embodied in our principles, it's embodied in our procedures, but it's really more than just words on paper. We practice it. So IEEE recently revised its code of ethics to make it more proactive, make it more forward-looking, so having people take responsibility for the technologies that they're creating. I drive a Tesla, okay? And so my Tesla tells me where it wants to go. But at the same time, I have to have a responsibility. I cannot just leave it to this autonomous vehicle to drive itself. I still have to be aware of my surroundings so that I do not, cause damage to lives or property out there. So there's tremendous responsibility on us as engineers. And then to the whole question of ethics and scientific research, ethics and education in particular, it's something that I believe we teach in kindergarten. I know I learned this in kindergarten, going to school in India, and I believe that still happens in India. That you do the right thing, you share resources that you have, you care about the people around you. Just go back to ICARE, right? Be inclusive, collaborative, accountable, resilient, and ethical. Those are the kind of principles that I think that need to be periodically emphasized at all levels of the organization, whether you're in academia and industry and education. You set an example, right? You set an example, you be a positive role model for those around you. And all our organizations are 150% committed to it. I sit on a council right now on the ABET Board of Directors. It's called the IDEA Council, stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity Advisory Council. Now, we don't want to be presumptuous. We've come up with a few definitions of inclusivity, diversity, and equity, and we're going to put it out for public comment because as a global organization, where you sit might color what you see, right? So in other words, if you're in India or if you're in Europe or in the Middle East and so on, certain practices culturally are perhaps acceptable there, and you might be applying a different lens, a different perspective there. But there's always right from wrong. There's always right from wrong. I mean, I think we have clarity on that. But at the same time, we're sensitive to cultural differences out there. So all I want to say is that all the organizations that I'm involved with, all the organizations that you're probably involved with, care deeply about ethics in a very practical, tangible way to make it relevant to people around the world. So it's not just words on paper, we practice ethics. I practice ethics with my students, and I encourage them to do the same when they go out in whatever walk of life they're in.
Yeah. Okay, here maybe I would like really thank you for your comments and your Tesla reference, I think from there I just start thinking that maybe awareness and responsibility do nurture ethics. Like your responsibility will nurture that. And from the policy level, I think monitoring mechanisms, proper monitoring mechanisms is the backbone where ethics can be ensured. Also, the other thing is the saying that things left in sun to dry takes care of, kind of the best disinfectant. So in that way, the more open the things are, the more accessible to public the things are. As more and more data is open to the public for public assessment, for assessment through maybe just quality research or that, I think focus should be there towards that. That makes things more, kind of accountable. That makes people more accountable to whatever they do. So definitely from the policy perspective, there is a focus on that, but I think that is very essential to ensure ethics and ensure that things go the right way, and ensure that if things don't go the right way, then there is a way to flag things. So yeah, so that data, open access to data, data availability, open platform, I think these are key important issues in any area of science, irrespective.
Let me just add to that, because you flagged a thought. Privacy and security, right? And so IEEE is very, very concerned about this, and we've actually come out with an IEEE standard. You can comment on it. Professor Mohammed Hassami from the United Kingdom has come up with a certification process for autonomous and intelligent systems, which centers around privacy, right? So at the moment, if I can just digress for a second, we have a few labs that are being held face-to-face on campus. And so students, before they go on campus, have to be tested and have to be tested negative for COVID before they're allowed on campus. So these test results have to be uploaded to a website. Somebody has to monitor that. Now, the question that we are facing when it comes to implementation is, we do not want any social stigma to be associated with someone. Let's say somebody is identified as being COVID positive in a given situation, right? They need treatment. They don't need to be ostracized. They actually need to be treated, and they need help. And so these are all critical considerations. So how is the data going to be used, and who has access to the data? Is it being used responsibly? These are critical considerations. You can actually go in and comment on it. I'll add one other thing. IEEE has got a movement called Ethically Aligned Design, EAD, which is an open source movement that draws people from all over the world. You can go to EAD today and join other global experts in the conversation to develop the standard. We're writing, literally, folks, we're driving this car as we're putting this together. So.
Ramnik, over to you for the next question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ramesh sir and ma'am. It was really great insights, I would say. Data privacy is really one of the concerns that when we organize events and all those things. So we have a next question from HR Mohan. With online education is likely to become the new normal, what will be the impact of digital divide, and how to overcome this issue in a country like India, where already economic divide is not yet addressed? Is one segment of population has to suffer?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohan, and great to hear your voice. I'm sorry I could not participate in your panel at the end of August. I know you had a panel on online education organized by the Madras section. No, this is a critical question, right? Because you hit the nail on the head. We can have the fastest computers, we can have the best educational platforms, the technologies, and so on. But without access to the internet, what good is that, right? And then if you go to an even fundamental level, you need power, you need electricity, right? So electrification, and this is part of IEEE's core mission. I didn't talk about IEEE Smart Village. IEEE Smart Village is built on electrification, education, and entrepreneurship. So to provide distributed energy where people are. So you're absolutely right. Access is important. At the same time, you know, I'm like you. Everybody's getting older by the day, and our devices are getting smaller by the day, it seems like. And so we all need some kind of assistive technology. I mean, 10 years ago, I didn't need this. Now I can't see anything without this, right? And so what kind of assistive technologies are out there, and what access do people have to that? Because that cannot be the determining factor as to whether one person is successful or not. So when you talk about inclusion, when we talk about equity, those two factors I think need to be considered, and access is absolutely important. To your point about online learning, if I can look into the future, and this is always dangerous, but if I can look into the future, I'm just going to tell you that the way we deliver education today is going to change dramatically in the future. Because what we're seeing right now is not just a temporary shift. My university system, the 23 campuses, by the way, they just announced yesterday, the chancellor announced yesterday that the spring semester is going to be completely virtual. So now the faculty are trying to figure out how to create learning experiences that are meaningful. Now, immediately the access question comes in, because I have first generation students who don't have access to a laptop. So how are they going to get access to this? It's easy to say, well, if you have a smartphone that's good enough, imagine having to listen to 7 hours of lecture on a smartphone. You go crazy, right? I think it needs to be thought about very well. Infrastructure is important. This is where government and public policy comes into play, because access being such a critical foundational issue, we need to be thinking about it from a very core level. What do they lack, right? If we can provide power, can that open up the door? Maybe they'll have a refrigerator that brings in medicines to the community. Maybe that powers a computer that brings in continuing education to the community. But without access, none of those things are going to be able to deliver on their promise. So I'm completely with you. That's probably going to be the next entrepreneurial wave. How do we shorten the distance between innovators and their markets so that everybody has equitable, inclusive access to what they need, when they need, and how they need it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and in fact, you have covered the whole spectrum. I have nothing to add here. That maybe this is so critical, and this is maybe the new entrepreneurial challenge, especially in India, to provide the infrastructure, to provide the access, because there has to be a innovation, there has to be a landmark change, there has to be a landmark some breakthrough innovation to enable this access, and then things will follow. Maybe then online education will follow, online apprenticeship, online entrepreneurship, everything will follow. But maybe now the need of the hour is a breakthrough innovation to provide access to the last mile, for last mile connectivity. And to, in India, the issue is multiple range. It is of geographic limitation, it's of socioeconomic divide, it's of various inclusive, and taking all this into account. So I think, yeah, that is a big field that needs to be looked into right away.
And we'd love to hear more ideas from any of you out there, because this is something that, it's not just in India, by the way, because my students, I told you about my first generation students. Yesterday I had a meeting. I have a peer mentor group. So I actually have students who mentor fellow students. And they were telling me about the difficulties that they were facing, both in terms of coming on campus, getting their tests done, because the tests are not free and public transportation is limited. How do you get to campus? How do you do the lab? Lots and lots of issues, right? But these are the kind of things we need to be thinking about. These are the kind of things we need to solve. I know we'll solve them. We just don't have all the answers in front of us right now, right? That's what makes it, that's life, folks. I mean, this is why we live.
Ramnik?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for your reflection on that question. It was really an interesting question. How can a new normal way can change the science, technology, and what we are doing these days? How students can contribute in such little country and nationwide building. So with that, we are over with the QA session, and I have shared the feedback link. So I request all the participants to share their kind remarks and feedback onto the feedback form, and it's really must for your token of appreciation that we are going to distribute. So please share your remarks. With that, I want to ask Prashant sir, can I share my remarks regarding
Yeah,
this?
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So it's always again and again a new learning phase for me every time when I get associated with IEEE activities, and this time we are being associated with Science Policy Forum and BST. So it's a kind, I would say, it's really great learning phase I am going on. I'm a young professional, but learning is actually a two-way learning. When we learn from others and when we share the remarks, that's very beneficial for everyone to grow in this particular track. And with the remarks of Ramesh sir, it's always great to have you on the stage. And thank you so much for giving your remarks. And I really learn many things whenever you come on the stage. And this time we have a second personality, Mohua ma'am. It was really great to host you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Over
you,
to you,
Ramnik,
sir.
for your kind words.
Thank you, sir.
Naveen sir, one Suresh Ponnan had put a message. Is he around? He wanted to ask a question. Suresh Ponnan.
Wait, I will.
You can just check. I just saw that in the chat. Actually, it's a different. Not there.
Okay, Dr. Suresh Ponnan, I unmuted you. You can express your
Yes, sir.
remarks, but kindly consider the timing limitation. So be very precise.
Yes, sir. I have one question to panelists. Thank you for giving time to me. Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. You are perfectly audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now in India, the new education policy has been launched. In forthcoming years, it is going to be adopted by all students. Okay. While switching from existing policy to new education policy, whether the student is having that much capability to follow it. Sir, is my question is audible?
Yeah, we it was a part was not audible.
Please type it in chat, Dr. Ponnan. Maybe.
Yeah. I think there is some sort of network connectivity problem from his end. Dr. Suresh, can you please type your question in the chat box so that?
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Yes, great. Thank you.
And Dr. Mohua, if you'll kindly take this one, because he was talking about a policy. I don't want to step into something that I haven't read about.
Sure. I couldn't get the question, but yeah, I'm looking forward in the chat box.
Thank you so much. Happy to chime in afterwards, but I said, what exactly is this policy that he's referring to? So.
I think Dr. Navneet Krishnan there is. I think he is not able to put the message also.
Yes.
I think we'll close then because I think there is some network error at his end. You can wind up. You can thank and we'll close the session.
Yes. Please proceed.
Maybe we can do it online with him later. You know, if you can.
Yeah. We'll anyway your mail we'll share with them.
Sure.
Dr. Navneet, would you like to conclude?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh and Dr. Mohua, for your great efforts and time for making this event a meaningful one. In fact, we have had a great morning today. So we thought of concluding the session in 1 hour to 1.5 hours, but it's almost 2 hours and 10 minutes. Such an interesting session. Still the participants are very interesting and they are very active in hearing your presentation and your thoughts for the different questions. Thank you so much once again. And I would like to thank my team, Professor Prashant Nair, Ramnik, and our volunteers, whoever contributed in a great way to make this event a grand success. I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants who have turned up for today's meeting, and thank you so much for being very active in this for throughout the session, starting from the introduction till the end. Thank you so much once again. So Professor Prashant, you can include your remarks and we can close the call.
No, actually I'm good. Again, I thank I think the feedback that we are getting in the chat box is very good and very excellent. So thanks again to all the participants. Thanks to Dr. Mohua. Thanks to Dr. Ramesh. I would also want to thank Dr. Chagun Basha from the Science Policy Forum. He's actually my point of contact. And he has been very helpful in facilitating this event very proactively, despite very busy schedule. I believe today there is a very major event with the minister, but all of you found time. Thank you, Dr. Mohua. So I think we'll close. Yeah. Yes.
I would like to add my thanks note to Dr. Ramalata Marimutu.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And was the great source of motivation. And I would like to extend my thanks to the coordinators, Dr. J.N. Swaminathan, Professor and Head of EC Department, Swiss College of Engineering and Technology, Ongole. I would like to extend the thanks to Dr. Kalyan Chakraborty, who is the Executive CEO of Swiss Group of Institutions, Ongole, Andhra Pradesh, and the session coordinators, Kamya Johar and Bishmat Kaur, for their excellent support for making this event. Thank you so much all once again.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to all of you, and this is the beginning of the conversation. I know we had a long conversation today, but this is the beginning of the conversation. As I often say, I may have moved from India, but India is always here. So count on it.
I'd also like to just add that thank you so much for this opportunity to interact with the entire IEEE members and viewers here, and we are really looking forward to your active participation in the process.
Thank you so much. Nandri, Vanakkam, Namaskar.
Nandri, Vanakkam, Namaskar.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.
Great time, everyone.
Good night, Doctor.